What's up, guys? I get a lot of questions from people about limb-driven rests, specifically how do they time the launcher arm so it supports the arrow the longest amount of time while still getting full clearance. So obviously the whole point of an arrow rest is to support your arrow, but you also want to maintain full clearance with a drop away rest so that you're not getting any contact with your vanes. So today I'm going to go over how to time your limb-driven fall away rest and some simple tricks to make sure you're getting the most support without getting any contact with your launcher arm. So stick tight and we'll get started. Oh yeah. Okay, so there are really two things that are going to determine the timing of your launcher arm. That's going to be the position of the cord on your limb and then the amount of tension in the cord that goes from your rest to your limb. So the positioning on the limb, generally speaking, the closer I get to the back or the end of the limb by the cam, the faster the rest will pick up and the later it will drop. And that's because when I draw the bow, the end of the limb has the most throw in it, meaning that's what's gonna start flexing first when I draw the bow and deflexes last when I shoot the bow. So by putting the cord next to the tip of the limb, as soon as I start to draw the bow, it's gonna start picking that up, and when I shoot, it's gonna drop later. The second thing that's going to determine the timing is the tension in the cord. So on a rest like these ham skis where I've got this little spring here, if I cinch this as tight as I can, I'm essentially stretching out that spring a little bit, which means that now not only the limb has to flex for the rest to start to raise, but all the tension in that cord, that coil in my spring, has to also be relieved before that rest can raise. So it will start picking up later and it will drop sooner. So you can kind of play around with the position of the cord here. Now on this particular bow, just because of the cam system on the Matthews here, I can't get all the way back to the limb tip without, I was kind of worried that, you know, if I needed to shift my cam right or left, that I would actually get a little contact between the cord and the bearings there. So it's just in front of where, you know, where these the AVS system is right there. And then I played around with the cord tension here, so the tension is not really tight. It's really just enough so that this rest stays seated when the bow is at rest. But you know, within the first 2 or 3 inches of me starting to draw my bow, my rest picks up, and then it starts to drop probably about 6 inches before my string is at rest, but I'm still getting full clearance. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're getting full clearance, because obviously if you are contacting the rest with your vanes, you're going to have very inconsistent arrow flight. It's going to be a nightmare when you're trying to tune it. So there's a really simple way to do that. We like to chalk our vanes. So basically rub a little chalk. We have in the tuning room there, we got a little 2x4. We just grind some chalk on it, cover the vanes in the chalk, and then shoot it through paper. If you look at your rest and there's chalk on your launcher arm, then you know that you need to basically speed up the timing of that rest. So again, if I move this further down the limb, there's less throw in that part of the limb, so it's going to pick up later and drop sooner. Obviously the purpose of a rest, as I mentioned earlier, is to support your arrow for as long as possible. So, you know, play around with that a little bit. You want it to stay up as long as you can get it while still maintaining full clearance. So, like I said, it's probably a little simpler than a lot of people actually imagine. Position on the limb cord and the amount of tension in this cord are going to be the two determining factors for how long that rest stays up. There's a lot of different rests on the market. You know, the ham ski is really easy to do this with because you have this little spring here that I can really control the tension with. You know, you want to be careful because I could get this even looser here, but what can happen, especially with a new rest, is that if you get it to where that rest is just barely seated when the bow's at rest like this, after 50 or 60 shots, that cord might get a little stretch in it. And when it gets that stretch, then that rest is gonna pick up. And it might just be ever so slightly, but what's gonna happen is it's not gonna get out of the way soon enough of your veins. So you're gonna get contact. So whether it's a ham ski or a trophy taker or a Gen 7, you know, I like to try and get some of that stretch out of the cord before I cinch it all up. Or if you're gonna, you know, run very little tension in the cord, just make sure that you're paying attention to it. If you see that launcher arm isn't seated all the way when your bow is at rest, you need to just cinch up that cord a little bit. But yeah, it's a pretty simple process. I get a lot of questions on it, and so I thought it'd make a good idea for a video. So if you have any more questions on this, please feel free to comment below. Hit me up on Instagram at inside_out_precision. You know, I can pretty much walk you through anything with one of these. They're not quite as intimidating as they might look if you're a new shooter. So thanks for watching today, guys. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We really appreciate all the comments and the views and the subscriptions, so keep it rolling. Until next time, keep it in the middle, and I'll see you on the range.